Hey students from all of our campuses, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We're sitting here today in downtown Corpus Christi, just hanging out. We're gonna sit down with one of our adult leaders from our Corpus campus. Her name's Christina, and she's just gonna tell us her story, just of how God just completely changed her life, about the things she's had to overcome, but the key to her life is just not giving up, continuing to fight for what God's called her to do. So we're gonna sit down with Christina right now, just hang out and see what she has to say.
I heard my grandparents talk about Christ all the time, so I knew, I want to go to heaven. I want to say this prayer. And every Sunday after I said the prayer, I kept going back to say the prayer just to make sure that I was going to get into heaven. Like, I wasn't completely sold that all I had to do was say those simple words. And so, I went to church every weekend with my grandparents, and then, they kind of weren't in my life so much due to family circumstances. And I didn't really start attending church again maybe until I was a sophomore in high school. And, I did a few months of that and really didn't think it was for me because the people there I felt kind of were hypocritical in a way, stopped really following Christ, and I got into, the whole teenage, high school, college lifestyle, and I was out partying and doing drugs and drinking and not really following his words and his ways. And I had some trauma experiences, and my grandmother passed away, and my grandmother and grandfather were more like my mother and father roles, and they were the ones that had instilled Christ's love and his passion and what the church was about. At my grandmother's funeral, when it was said that she lived with a servant's heart and that she did anything and everything that the church needed, and that even if that meant cleaning the bathrooms, that Bertha Nichols did that with a servant's heart, I thought, wow, I want someone to say that about me when I die. Like, I don't want to be known as someone that lived this party lifestyle, or, oh, well, she graduated college, that's great, that doesn't matter, I want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. Like, what did you do for my kingdom? And, that really struck a chord. And over time, I had to realize, certain people would have to leave my life, and certain activities I was participating in would have to leave my life. And since then, and since I've, come to grow closer to Christ and actually, read my Bible every morning and do studies and look inside, and work on changing yourself and focus on following a Christ-like life, the blessings have just been amazing. Here I have this husband and a great job. I was able to give up that addiction to drugs that I'd had for 8.5 years, and it was through just knowing that when God convicts you of something and he wants you to give him something, you can't fight it for that long. He wants it, it's his. You've just got to give it over and know that he's going to give you those steel convictions to be able to say no to those things.
So what would you say if you think back at all those those turning points? Describe which one you think would have been was the toughest battle. If you had to think of the hardest one out of all the things that you had to, whether it was your drug addiction or something else, what was that moment where it really was hard to do that?
Even harder than the drugs, because he gave that more to me, of the desire to quit, than it was losing a lot of friends and that feeling of loneliness and feeling like, everyone had abandoned you and they're just not the people that you thought they were. But getting past that loneliness and turning to him for the comfort and praying to him to put the kind of people in your life that he desires you to have a relationship with. It takes time, and so it's really hard to fight through that and not run back to those people that could put you in a compromising position. I think that was the hardest.
Why do you serve with students?
If you want to talk to me about what I've been through, there's a lot more to the story. There's a lot of heartache, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of abuse, but I really feel like there's a lot of kids going through those things these days, and a lot of students that might have been at a crossroad where I was, where, you know, you try to compose yourself and you try to look like you've got it all together and you're faking it till you make it, and you've lost it all, and you just need that person to tell you, like, hey, I've been there, don't do it like I did, there's a better way for you. You know, if I had someone that could have mentored me in a way or talked to me and let me know that it didn't have to be that difficult, and that as long as I got back to my roots or just got back to following Christ, that it just didn't have to turn out the way it did in the hard times. You know, I think you still have hard times, but that's my passion. My passion is to get on that level with as many students as possible where I can really like bare my soul to them and relate to them and let them know that it's okay, you know, we've been there, but you don't have to.
And what would you tell a student that might be sitting there thinking, okay, like I know we're talking about how to fight and overcome, but like I'm not gonna win this.
I would tell them it might seem that way and it might look that way, and really no one can convince you otherwise of that sometimes, but if you just take it one day at a time, and one day at a time you change the way you're gonna think. Like, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and no matter what my friends think or my parents think or these negative influences in my life, like, I'm gonna have a positive outlook, and you know what, I'm gonna pick up my Bible and I'm gonna read something, and maybe that something that you read will help get you to the next day.
What do you tell yourself now? Because now you are following God, you have that strength. But you know, we all know there's still days where even as Christians and people that follow God, there's still days where we don't think we can do this. And so, like, knowing what you know now, like, what do you tell yourself now when you have those moments?
Most of the times when I have those moments, I'm looking at other people and I'm not focusing on God and I'm not focusing on my path. I'm looking at other people's paths and what God's given them or what they might be doing. And that's what kind of throws me off, and I have to remind myself that I'm not them. And what they're doing is for them and not me, and I don't have those things or those resources for a reason. You will reap your harvest, like it says in Galatians. If you just persevere, in time you will reap your harvest. But staying committed to the church and staying committed to doing God-like things and hearing other people, what they have to say, will really keep you focused on what it is that you're meant to do. If you're hearing this, like, you're already one step ahead of a lot of people because you're in church and you're around a room full of students and adults that are like-minded, that are Christ-centered, and that want to help you. And the best way would be to use the resources that you have, and that's Bay Area. That's Bay Area students. That's to come to talk to any of us and to let us know what your needs are, what we can help you with. God is for you, who can be against you, really? And that's the ultimate resource there.